Did you get a haircut?
I did.
I love it.
Trying to look, trying to pull off the cute look.
It's very cute. It's very cute. I don't mean to give you a compliment because that's politically incorrect these days, but
it can be said to be.
But I like it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
When did you do that?
Well, it was an accident actually, but that's a long story. I went to the hairdressers and I was like, "Hey, give me a new look. I don't care what you do what you want." And then suddenly, whoop. And now my son, who's obsessed with Rapunzel, thinks that the witch cut off my hair as a punishment to get me out of the tower or something. So there's a story. It's so funny. So
how old's your son?
I'm 2.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, Adon, welcome to the Women Your Mother Warned You About. This is what happens here. We start talking about all kinds of things like hair.
You never quite know where we're going to go.
Don't quite know where we're going to go. So I hope you know what you're in for.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Don't be scared.
Awesome. And we said your name right?
You did. Adon,
okay.
yeah?
I just wanted to make sure because I am infamous for butchering names. So I always like to ask and double check. You don't have to nod so quickly, Susanna.
Susanna, where are you based out of? Like what part of the UK?
I'm a place called Bristol, which is in the southwest. So not me personally, but you might find lots of farmers around here and they all talk a bit like this. We're just going to go down the farm and go and, I don't know, plow the field.
Well, I'm just looking because I don't know much about my history, but I have an aunt that knows everything. And she reached out to me like 3 years ago. I never ever met her. So she sends me all these pictures and stuff. But we my grandma immigrated over and grandpa in 56.
Oh, wow. So you're one
Canada.
of me.
I'm just trying to find it. I'm from that general area, like not far from where Tony Morrison, because I asked Tony and he was like, "Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I got to interject here because aren't you all connected to England because you're Canada?
Well, the early settlers, yes, but not so much anymore.
But aren't you governed by the king?
Well, you know what? A lot of people here actually gave a rat's ass about everything, and I didn't realize how much we were until the Queen died. There's a big monument of the Queen just down here. I'm in Victoria, the capital of British Columbia, and I drive past it, and there is filled with flowers, all kinds of stuff. And then I remember my grandma telling me she waited in line when the Queen's father died. So whenever that was, because she was Queen for 7 years, so she stood in line for 12 hours. That was a long time ago. Then. Yeah, I remember. Grandma's passed on now, but yeah, from Honor Oaks. Well, they're buried in Honor Oaks Cemeterium. It's like asking you if you know Bob, right?
a bit, but no, I mean, it's not a big country again. It's a lot smaller than your country, so I can understand. But I don't know that place.
Back in England, that's where we're from.
Oh, that one. Yeah. I think I know that one.
Okay. Grandparents living on Dort Street in Beckmead. There we go.
Well, to our listeners, I hope you have enjoyed this little lesson in geography and history.
Exactly. Are we being recorded?
Oh gosh, yeah. We just start running and you don't know what's going to happen. And I think we should just keep all this in here, including Susanna's hair. And I'm a little upset Susanna hasn't noticed my hair because I also got my hair done today, but she hasn't made any comments about it. But that's okay.
So for all of our listeners, we are now on a Zoom call, and at Sales Gravy, we always train people to have eye contact paradox. And I'm not actually looking at Gina, but Gina, I'm going to just draw your attention. I'm going to look at you on my screen here, and your hand looks beautiful. Absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
You're doing a good job then, because you're looking right up. I have to keep looking up here to actually look at you, but I just look at you on the TV.
Yeah. Same thing here. You're right here.
Yeah.
That was the paper is blue to show that, so I hope I don't do it.
Yeah. This is also something we teach at Sales Gravy, right? Like looking in to the camera. So let's just officially properly welcome Adon Rigg to the Women Your Mother Warned You About podcast. Adon, welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you're ready for this.
I am ready.
Awesome. So one thing I want to jump in with and make a comment on before Susanna runs away with the show, because sometimes she likes to do that.
Take over.
The British takeover. Aiden, I got to tell you, you got my attention on LinkedIn, and I want to call this out because I think this is really important because I really didn't know you, but you got my attention on LinkedIn because you were posting all kinds of things on LinkedIn about outbound.
Yeah.
And of course, when you posted something about me that hit my ego, got my attention, I'm like, who is this guy? Who is he? And I want to know, where did that come from that you were posting all that stuff promoting outbound?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I actually had kind of, had the idea, I know 2 years ago, but because of COVID, I couldn't cross the border. So I had planned to go last year for sure. Year before that, which the crux of COVID, I'm pretty sure I would have been thinking I was going to go too. But I know for sure last year I was hoping that the borders would be open and all that stuff. So I was thinking, how do I not have to introduce myself? Rather come up and say, hey, how are you doing? And like when you saw me, Gina, we said, oh, hi. You said, hey, Aiden. And it was better than me coming up to you saying, I'm Aiden Rigg. You knew who I was.
Oh yeah. Actually, you saw me and you're like, hey, Gina, it's Aiden. I was like, oh my gosh, Aiden. Like I've known you forever.
Yes. You feel very famous on LinkedIn. Your name has a lot to do with that as well. It's a very memorable name.
Right. It's a curse and a blessing. We always go into that later, but I wanted to change my name for years because, anyhow, it was the 80s and the AIDS virus was just coming out and everyone used to call it AIDS. AIDS was grade 6 and stuff. And then when I got older and realized no one else had the name, but now the 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds are named Aiden. There's lots, but I'm 50 and there was no one. There was no one, right? There was Aiden Quinn and one or two actors maybe. And but so that was kind of the gist of it. And I know it's fun. It was like, okay, I did put up content anyhow. What's up, put up content and it helps me learn. And then what I did by watching videos of different people like yourselves and stuff. And then I was like, oh, well, I learned who you guys were. I learned who Toni Morrison was. I learned who Lee Sales was, or at least more about them. And so it was a learning experience. So I got as much out of it as personally, as far as doing it as well.
I love that. I think one thing that you write a lot about on LinkedIn is about moving away from that cold call. And I must say, just what Gina said, I never felt like you invaded your way into my life. You were kind of just there. And then there you were with outbound. And you somehow managed to, not creep in, because that sounds a bit creepy, but you somehow managed to step into our lives. And you use social media very well to do that. And I know that you talk a lot about having 13 tactics to essentially automatically generate leads. Has that got something to do with it? Are you going to tell us any of these 13 secret tactics that you might have?
Yeah, well, it's, let's back up a little bit because I want the listeners to kind of understand. You're talking about a guy here that started in selling in, door to door back. He was in 92. And then my first real job where actually wasn't just 100% commission and stuff. That was 94. And I had this guy look just like Ronnie Dangerfield. He was the sales manager and it was like, make the cold calls and just beat people up with, 5, 6 different things and stuff. And the first time I ever got on the internet was, the Sandra Bullock movie, The Net, was already out. I didn't even know what the net was when the movie came up with The Net. What the hell's the net? Right. So whenever that was. And so my first job, I got a job around 2001 was when I first got the computer, got the internet. So I was kind of like a late bloomer and stuff. And so my purpose of me telling you this is I just kind of saw where things were going. So I kind of just learned through hard knocks, just trying things and failing things. I've easily spent $100,000 in the last 10 years completely failing, right?
Really?
Setting up absolutely. At least 100,000. I wouldn't even want to go back and look at it. I've tried everything from Aweber to Infusionsoft to
Infusionsoft. Oh my God.
Infusionsoft, right? Everything. And so just I learned a lot of things along the way. So 13 tactics. But what I really kind of advocate is we can all sit back and argue all day long. People like to do it. Well, a cold call is a cold call. I still want to talk to someone's a cold call. Yeah, it's true. But what I'm talking about is like when I saw Gina as an example at this outbound conference, that was a cold meet, but it wasn't. Right, it was the first time I met her, but she kind of knew who I was a little bit, and that felt a little bit warmer to me than if I had done nothing.
It was definitely warm. It was. Right. It was right? Not cold. I don't feel like it was ever cold.
Right. No. And so that's great. A great point from your perspective. From my perspective, I was just doing things and trying to get great awareness. Right. So, and that's what I kind of advocate about the no cold call. All I'm saying is, there comes a time, and I don't know when it is, but there was a time when Amazon became a normal thing in my life. There was a time when Coca-Cola became a normal thing in my life. Yeah. It was just in my psyche, and it was Coca-Cola. But there was the first time I ever heard of Coke. Don't know when it was, right? Or Amazon. The first time I ever heard of Amazon was, you get books. So I don't know when the answer is. At some point, we get into people's psyches where they know us. There's a level of trust there. And so that's what prospecting automation is really about. It's trying to use technology to reduce time, right? The time it takes me to pick up the phones, type an email, what have you, just to kind of try to condense that as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn, right? So we could look at LinkedIn. It's not really automation. It was a way for you to warm up. But when we look at some of the ways to automate, and you mentioned Confusionsoft, like I had that for like a minute, like a year. But that was a huge investment for a year because I forget what I was paying, $300 a month. And then I had to pay someone like $150 a month to like operate it for me because I couldn't, right? So it was a huge, ridiculous investment designed to help me automate, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So when you look at some of these automation tools, right, how can we make automation tools warm? I mean, that's what I want to hear. It's like, how do you warm up with automation?
I would say that you think of automation as you setting up an email. So like if I was going to do an introductory email to you right now, I would sit down and I would type it out, right? But why would I retype that email and send it to Susanna? Why would I then retype it and send it to Bob and Sue?
Right.
Well, it's the same email. If I can just automatically plug your name in, right, on the system automatically says, "Oh, hi, I know it seems impersonal, but not to the person getting it."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, I got this email from this guy named Adon." If you open that email or you click a link, or you watch the video or what have you, now I sit back and go, "Oh, okay. There's a level of interest there. I have gotten their attention. Now I'll go one-to-one." Right now I'll actually go type an email and say, "Hey, Gina, I noticed you watched the video. How did you like the video?" or whatever. But if you're not going to do anything or click anything or what have you, then I just automate it until you do.
But some people never do.
That's what I was going to say. I just like totally deleted and unsubscribed to all these emails that I didn't subscribe to. Right.
Yep.
Sorry, Susanna. I didn't mean to jump on you. Go continue.
Jump all over me.
So some people never do. Go.
They don't. And I'll be honest with you. One of my biggest bugbears is trying to warm up salespeople to move, and I mean this in a very polite way, and I don't want it to sound rude because it's not, because there's definitely a place for it, right? Because it works. You've seen the results. You've seen the automated results. But some of the quality leads that I'm finding are from people who say, "Wow, you actually picked up the phone and called me. No one else has done that. Wow, you actually sent me a video message that was so much more personal." There's a lot of noise out there about automated emailing and automated messaging becoming so impersonal. So how would you recommend that someone can use the automated service without seeming scattergun in their approach?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Yeah. Seeming what?
Scattergun in your approach.
Scattergun?
Yeah, so imagine I've got a gun, or we don't have them over here in the UK. But exactly.
Adon, you got to understand that there's always a new word that she throws in that I don't know. Okay,
I've never heard that word too. But my grandma comes from England. She would sit back and say things like, "Are you gonna wait in the queue?" I'm like, "The queue? The queue's for pool, right?" And and that's the different words and terminologies. Scattergun. I will use that.
Scattergun. All right, go on.
Yeah. So look at it like this. There's top, middle, and the bottom of the funnel. Okay. Top of the funnel, automate. Middle of the funnel, less automation, and bottom of the funnel, almost no automation. So if I'm going to get 1,000 leads, for me to pick up the phone and call each of them or email each of them individually, I'll have skinny kids. But if I can send some emails to people with relevant content or a relevant question, like, hey, Susanna, are you in charge of sales training, as an example? And you open it or you click the link. Now I sit back and say, okay, there's something there. And now it's worth me calling or doing a personal email or a text message or something. But now it's worth me spending that sweat equity and time in it. And I personally think everybody should be doing it because when I think all the times I would used to phone people and they, well, give me a call back next month. And you say, okay. And you call them back next month. It's actually, we just switched. What? Or whatever the case was, we were doing it anyhow, but less able to connect.
What I like about what you're saying is that you are building familiarity. I mean, you proved that by having the warm meet with us, and building familiarity is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a criticism of it, but the reason I don't go to that for my first tool, if I was given let's say I was given 1,000 names on a lead list, to me, I would probably start off by working out, researching which ones are going to be in my main focus list out of those, like who are going to be my big prospects, because I wouldn't want to work on the assumption that they would respond. So can you tell us a bit about evidence of response rates from these automated campaigns?
So funny. I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah. So to answer your question, if you get a list of, let's say, 1,000 people, on average, somewhere between 11 to about 15%, right, are going to open that first time. And the second time, you're going to get in and around the same. And then, but what happens is, so all automation is let's say I send an email to you, and let's say I send the same email to Gina and Susanna, and Gina opens up that email, and the system just automatically sends me a workflow, says, hey, call her, or it automatically sends email B, where Susanna, you don't open it, so it sends you email C or D, whatever it is. And so based on your behavior and your level of engagement, it just always doing the same thing. This person's, it's like, if I go into the dating world, but you go into the dating world and you walk in, there's always people to potentially talk to, and your buddy comes up to you and says, you know what, that girl down there really thinks you're cute. Maybe go talk to her. I'm like, oh, okay. My level of confidence, my level of all kinds of things are elevated. And I go there and I try to have a conversation. And so that's all we're doing. We're just trying to, out of 1,000 people, see who's the most likely the one that's interested at this time. But next week, 6 months from now, a person that hasn't opened up any of your emails starts to open them up, or maybe they never do.
Or you could have called them, before the 6 month ended and got a yes, no, maybe quicker.
You absolutely could have, but unless you're using, I have 2 people who work for me, okay, that make nothing but cold calls. Okay. On average, they're going to get 10 to 12 people an hour. Okay. At Outbound, when you go talk to the guys at Connect and Sell there, they can increase that substantially. And I'm going to be talking with them, but his exact numbers to me, they know what they're talking about. Says you'll get about 10 to 12, 15 calls an hour. So think how long, if I have a list of 1,000, that's going to take me forever. And then I got to go back and cycle through again. So I'm just trying to get to the people that are most likely going to, take the call, engage in some way.
So that's so interesting. At Sales Gravy, one thing that we constantly talk about, one thing that Jeb lives by is first touch should be a phone call, right? That the first outbound should be a phone call, and then you build your sequence from there. What's your opinion on that? So because you're in this automated world, is your first touch an email, and then do you incorporate the call somewhere in the sequence?
So when I was having outbound, I was having dinner with a bunch of people, and Anthony was there. Anthony said the same thing. Anthony believes in a phone call first. I would never, ever challenge Jeb and Anthony and these guys. They're the leaders in the industry. There is not one only way.
Yeah. And I want to preface that for everybody, right? So we've got a lot of successful sales thought leaders out there, right? And everyone's got kind of a different approach to it. So this is not by any means taking away from maybe what your approach is, but I want people to hear what their options are.
1,000%. The reason why I do the email first is because I teach email first. And the reason behind it is simple. Most people, even salespeople, are completely 100% afraid of rejection, failure, and confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked most of my career as a manufacturer's rep where I got in the car and worked with salespeople.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it. You don't ever say anything to them. You never tell the sales manager. They don't know what to do with a cold call. They don't have a clue. You sit back and say, hey, Bob's really interested. Go see Bob. He wants to buy. So assuming most of the people I deal with are like that, they have a high level of anxiety and then pick up the phone. They're going to have all the reasons not to phone. Right? To pick up the phone. But if they sit back and say, hey, Suzanne, I'm just calling you. I left an email yesterday. Even though you've never even opened up the email, it gives me something to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even better, if I sit back and say, hey, Susanna, I liked what you did on the janitorial group in LinkedIn. That has been proven that just being in the same group on LinkedIn gives you a 70% better chance of getting them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just use those things as kind of to level the anxiety for me. But I've kind of done it hundreds of times. I don't really have as much anxiety as I used to, but I know what I used to be like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I assume everyone I'm teaching or talking to or whatever, they're the same. I at least assume they are.
And I think we need to come back to, if you are dealing with 1,000, 2,000 leads, right? That's part of the challenge too. I've got clients across the board. They've got 1,000 leads, or they've got really a finite group that they go after. And maybe it's 300 leads, and that's easier to get through that and to constantly go through that from a calling perspective. But if you've got thousands, which I'd like to talk about, how do you get the thousands?
Mm-hmm.
Where did the leads come from, right? Because obviously automation is going to be really important with a lot of leads, but where do the leads come from?
Well, there's a bunch of different programs. I've recently, through Outbound, signed up with Seamless.ai, right? So they're fantastic. They even have, in a lot of cases, people's mobile numbers, right? But Strathio, Seamless.ai, these are programs that literally, you download the app into Google Chrome, you go to a website, you click the button, and it gives you a list of all the people in that organization, from the CEO, whatever, boom, right there, click a button, and it brings into Excel, and you put it into your system. So to get the leads takes seconds, like literally seconds.
Okay.
And then you validate the leads, which is another tactic. So you make sure that it's an actual lead that goes into someone's inbox. Tactic number 13, I think number 13 is authenticate. That's all we do. We just make sure that the viability of that email or of our emails going into someone's inbox is almost guaranteed by validating it on my end, on others. So I'll give you an example. There's a thing called DKIM.
Mm-hmm.
Took me forever. I can't remember what it stands for, but I use it all the time. And so I won't mention any names, but after Outbound, I reached out to 5 top people and their organizations, and took the digits of their email. So let's say it's greatsalescompany.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And put it in. Not one of them were DKIM validated. So what does that mean? What it means is that Google and Bing, even though these are pretty big companies and these are prominent people, there's still a huge chance that Bob at greatcompany.com or Sue at goodcompany.com, that's going to go into someone's spam box. I've never had a customer or a prospect that's actually done that. So these are just little things that that have been authenticated and just get you into the inbox.
Actually, my web person who manages GinaTramarco.com, that was like a big deal for her. I still don't know what it stands for, but it had to happen when she did my site.
Well, you would be extremely rare. And if it is, that's fantastic. But I'm talking, I've got customers that are in the millions, of their companies and stuff like that. And when I do it, they're not even authenticated. Well, it's just a little thing. It's not going to make or break, but it helps, right? There's all these.
Yeah. There's something going on in my mind right now, because one of the things that I certainly got from you, Adon, being in the same room as you, but also from seeing your presence on LinkedIn, you have got a great presence, you've got a great personality and great voice, and that comes across really well from a sales perspective. However, the one thing in my mind that I just cannot get away from is salespeople are always looking for excuses not to pick up the phone. We know that. Anyone who's been a sales manager knows that too. And whilst I love the automated tool, I just worry that if salespeople, I love your example of calling them, using it as a reason to call them because they've got that email, use it as a reason to call them. I love that example. My only thing with this, with the product, is that our salespeople are going to use it as a way to avoid picking up the phone, which I believe is one of the primary problems. It's the reason I'm so successful at my business, because no one else is picking up the phone. And that's really quite poor, really. Yeah. So I want to know what you've got to say.
Can I jump in before he answers and play devil's advocate with you? Because you and I do that really well with the battle. I think I hear what Adon is saying, though. I don't think necessarily, I think you're going to have some people who will always find an excuse to not pick up the phone. No matter what. I think in this case, it's kind of interesting that if you've warmed them up a little bit and you see they have an interest, it actually gets easier to pick up the phone because it's not a pure cold call.
Bingo.
If they pick up the phone afterwards.
So Suzanne, I listen. So when the book's coming out, the last chapter of the book is, at the end of the day, people are, okay, they're not picking up the phone to call you. They're not doing it. They're not, okay? Yes, you got these marketing gurus and they have their big conventions and they make millions and millions and millions. And they have all these little tricks and all these things. And they follow Influencer by Robert Cialdini, and all these things. And they've been successful. But they've also been very successful because they've done everything they can to avoid picking up a phone. That's why they did it, right? Because they wouldn't be able to sell. They wouldn't be able to sell one-to-one.
That's a good point.
Right. But they've become millionaires not picking up a phone. So let's not ignore that. And let's say, okay, there's a validity there, but you and I don't have, I don't have millions of dollars to invest in all these things so that I don't have to call them, but I can use that technology for a few pennies a month or whatever to warm them up. But at the end of the day, we have to call. My phone does not ring. People just saying, hey, Adon, I saw you on LinkedIn. Where you've been all my life. Yes, I get a few a year. Absolutely. But, I would not be in business if I relied on people to pick up the phone to phone me. But when I pick up the phone and phone them, and they say, yeah, I've been watching your stuff for 6 months. Well, I see you on LinkedIn, or that's what I'm trying to achieve.
I think it goes back to a blended approach too, right? Which is something that we believe in. You're probably not just going to send an email. You're probably going to do some other things along the way.
Well, good point. So combo prospecting by Tony Hughes is right there. He has the combo, right? His thing is 1, 2, 3. As an example, me or my team, it's exactly how it works. You pick up the phone. We send an email. People open it. They pick up the phone. 90% of the time, you're not going to get them, right? Hi, is Gina there? No, she's not. Thank you. Boom. Click a button. I have 3 emails set. Talk to receptionist, voicemail. I actually spoke to that person. Click a button. It automatically populates. It says, hey, Gina, just spoke to your receptionist. They passed me off to your voicemail or whatever. So we're doing all that combinations, but we're doing it so fast. Phone call, no range, click, email. Now they've got a phone call. They've got an email. Now I'm going to sit back and see when they open it up. And some people don't open up. And some people open up 6 times. And then some people, I was with a customer today and he said to me, one person, then they have a score of 100. So we're scoring. If you open up an email, you get a point. If you watch a video, you get 3 points. If you watch more than 20 seconds of a video, you get more points, right? And we're scoring on these points. So he has a customer that has 100 points in the first 8 emails for prospecting. But she has gone to his calendar 3 times. So he's like, it can't be working. I said, well, it doesn't mean she actually signed up. She's nervous, what have you, but she's gone to your calendar. So he made me click and tap, yes, it works. So this person, for example, has gone to his calendar 3 times in the last week or so.
And aborted.
But if he picks up the phone and phones her, she's not going to sit back and say, Bill who? she's going to sit back. Oh yeah, I was meaning to call. She's not even going to know that we know.
She's gonna think, oh my gosh, you must have been reading my mind.
Do you know how many times we get that?
Right. I've done that with not as fancy of the automation. Like I've done Confusionsoft and then lost my mind with it. And then I went to something simpler like a MailChimp. But same thing, I can see who's clicking. I can see who's opening the email. I can see on what they're clicking on in the email. And then I can watch and see what they're doing. I'm not doing the full flow of things because it hurts my head.
Yeah.
Right. I need help with that, by the way. But I can look at behavior and be like, Adon's opened every single email in the past 2 months. I probably should call him.
Right. So my system was created because I did Confusionsoft. I paid the $1,300. I had the 3 online boarding sessions with screen share. I was still confused. So you can do things like, you can do things like the workflow. All that is the system sits back and says, Adon, here are all the people in the last 30 days or 2 days or 10 years that have gotten 30 points. That means they open this, right? Oh, here's all the people that have not scored more than 30 points the last 90 days. Oh, well, either get them out of my system, rethink something. So all we're doing is using technology. My first book was called Insightful Simple, right? And back then I came out 2010, and you do research to get insights on the industry and the person. Now technology does that. And it's a little creepy. Absolutely. If I had my way, we wouldn't have it in the world. But it's not going away anytime soon. So, so we can make this stuff use. It's just called AI, right? That's all it is.
And it's amazing. It's the future. But I'm impressed by it, and I'm impressed by what you're saying. I mean, what salesperson wouldn't use it, right? What salesperson wouldn't work smart to get quick results, especially if that person responds by emailing? But I think from a recruitment perspective, I'm just thinking to myself, would I use it? And I think maybe to find out if people are actively looking, but often I'm trying to get that person who's not actively looking, they're passive. And in order to do that, it has to be personalized.
Are you talking about candidates, or are you talking about organizations who are hiring?
So a recruiter who is an agency who's hiring or trying to find someone who's passive. So for example, I've got a lead list of say 100 at the moment, and I probably wouldn't automate a message to all of them. That simply is my first thing. I would do that as my first thing. But also, fanatical prospecting, one of the main things that Jeb says is that cold calling is still the best way to get contact. I mean, I think it depends on industry, doesn't it? Because he says statistics between 15% and 80% contact rates in the phone. So for me, and I know I'm laboring this point to death, but to me, if I want to get that quick yes, no, or maybe, I know I would back myself to get it more quickly than from an email campaign, because I get so many emails, I don't get so many calls. But that's just me. I would try both. I would definitely try both.
What if you called me for the first time and I said no to you, and I gave you your yes, no? And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate again, because obviously I work for Sales Gravy. So we live by the call first. But what if you call me, I say no, you get your yes, no, maybe, and you're out because you got the no. Then what? What do you do with me after that?
Well, it depends on whether you're a qualified prospect or not. If you're already qualified,
but you don't know because I shut you down.
Well, then you go straight into my sequence. But I'm more familiar than I would have been if I had just sent an email and you had ignored it and not even
seen
it.
What's your sequence in that scenario, Susanna?
My sequence would be to call Gina, get the no from Gina, but she's still familiar with my charm and my voice, which she wouldn't be familiar with when she just got my automated email.
Yeah.
I hopefully would have said something that was unique to Gina to stand out as an individual recruiter or salesperson, if you like. And I would still keep Gina up to date with my hot jobs, recruitment jobs. And that's where I'd use your automated tool. I'd have it like as a kind of every couple of weeks, these are my hot jobs for Gina. So Gina, I can see Gina's engagement, but I would back myself to get a quick yes, no, or maybe, if that makes sense.
So we're kind of talking the same thing. We're just different language. So here's my scenario in a summed up. You do all the things behind the scenes to make sure your email's going to get into someone's inbox as best as possible. Okay. So it's half the book. That's half the book. You get the emails, you put them into a sequence of roughly 8 emails over 30 days. Okay. They either open, they do, they don't, whatever. Regardless, they're either for me to pick up the phone and call them now, or I don't, based on what they've done. Then they automatically go into a once a week sequence after that, which is every week an article or a video.
Yeah.
Right. So for my customers, we do 1 week article, 1 week video. And all we're doing now is they're getting educational content once a week.
Yeah.
And based on whether they're watching the video, clicking, based on their behavior over the next infinity, some people it's 30 days, some people it's a year, right? As far as like whether they're opening, clicking, what have you. But all I do, I go to my system, I click hot leads, 30 points or more in the last 90 days. I get a list of 15, 20, 100 people, whatever it is. And those are who we call.
Yeah.
Most of who we call.
Absolutely.
So we have a sequence too, just like you're talking about. I think we're just talking about whether or not phone first or email first.
Yeah. And as long as they're picking up the phone as well as the email, then we are completely on the same page.
And I would never argue that picking up the phone first is fine. If someone wants to do that and pick up the phone, get a voice. But you have to realize, like, 2 things I'd advocate to listeners to listen to, even though I have a book coming out. Okay. You want to read Combo Prospecting by Tony Hughes because he has data. But
it's called Combo Prospecting?
Combo Prospect, yeah. But his newest book that's come out is so revolutionary. It's so ahead of the times that most people aren't ready for it. It's called Tech-Powered Sales.
Ooh.
Okay. And what he's talking about, people aren't ready for it. They're not ready for it. And so hopefully my book's coming out, it aligns very well with his. But a lot of people aren't ready for it. They're not. But so Combo Prospecting, okay, he quotes a survey. 2 weeks, 60 seasoned salespeople, 2 weeks, seasoned salespeople, 2 weeks make 6,000 phone calls in an independent study out of a university. 6,000 phone calls. They led 19 appointments. That's 1/3 of 1%. That is the data. And it's in Combo Prospecting. I quote it all the time. So I always say, does the phone work? Yes, it does. 1/3 of 1% of the time. Now, if you are in a small area, like I'm in Victoria, British Columbia. If my territory is just Victoria, sure, there's a lot more to be said about phoning and all these things because you're still such a small area that it's manageable. If all of a sudden I'm in charge of British Columbia or all of Canada, my pool is so much bigger that I can just shift them quicker and narrow them down to, the ones that are most likely to engage because I'm going after a bigger pool.
Well,
I'm cutting you off, Suzanne. I'm cutting you off because I do have another question I want to ask, and I know we got to get ready to wrap up soon. And I'm sure Susanna's got some interesting end of show question, but I do want to ask you this, and then I want to ask you how people can reach out to you. I've got several clients that I'm working with that they want to know best automation tools to use and how much is it going to cost them. They're smaller businesses that can't do an enterprise account necessarily, or individual salespeople, individual contributors who are like, I want to up my game. How do I use Seamless AI? How do I use this? How do I use that? I hear a lot of like, this is expensive. That's expensive. What would be some of your best recommendations for the individual contributor or the entrepreneur? What are the best automation tools out there, whether it's lead generation or email? Like, just give us maybe your top 3 in your opinion.
Yeah, well, there's basically 2 types of levels. So I'll answer the question that way. Everyone has, some things that are better. Each company's got something that's better within, but they're all basically the same. So Aweber, MailChimp, Get Response, ConvertKit, they're all basically email, maybe with a landing page, right? And then they're all starting to get into a little bit with workflows and stuff a little bit, but they're basically start off as email marketing programs,
right?
And they're good for email marketing and constant contacts, those type of things. Then you move up. When you move up, you start moving into, if I didn't have mine, I would probably go with ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign, I'd have everyone check that out. But Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, Salesforce. Those are now email marketing, but with a artificial intelligence behind it. And not to let anyone scare what artificial intelligence means, because you kind of think of this robotic person's going to take over the world, right? All artificial intelligence means is that, you send an email, they open it, the system goes, oh, okay, I do this. I send email 2. No, they didn't open it after 2 days or a week, whatever. Oh, I'll send email 3. That's all artificial intelligence is. Sales enablement's another word for it. It sounds scary. I thought it was all scary, and I went to a conference 5 years ago and went there, and I was like, oh, that's what they mean, I was thinking these robots are going to start. You hear things like Google answers the phone, and you don't know the difference between real. I'm sure that's coming, but we're not there yet. So artificial intelligence, AI, just simply means that it just automatically will hold off and not do anything for 2 days, and then based on what you've done in those 2 days, then it'll sit back and say, oh, they haven't opened up the email, then send this, or they have, send that. That's all it means.
Okay. So you've got the email marketing, you've got the email marketing plus AI. And then we've got things like seamless AI. We've got Zoom info. What are some other lead generation that you would suggest?
So when I went to Outbound, I was very impressed with Brandon and the seamless.ai. So I signed up for that. I got 2 accounts, and it's probably the best out there. Like rep that does, that's what they specialize in. I always get people swear to me. That's what she specialized in. And she goes, oh, seamless.ai is really, really good. But they're going to ask you to sign up for a year for $100 a month. Not everyone can do that or wants to do that. So a second alternative, which I used for years up until a month ago, was scrap.io, SKRAPP.io. It literally, you can go to LinkedIn. You could create a list of all the sales leaders. Okay. First connection, second connections, all the sales leaders. So Jeb would come up there, and you would come up there. Suzanne would come up there. There's your list. You click a button. It's going to take all your emails in seconds. 10 seconds.
And how do you spell that?
SKRAPP.io.
Okay.
And now when you can buy credits, you can spend $30 a month for 1,000 leads. That's enough for most people.
Yeah.
Right. It's enough for $30 a month. And literally you put a plugin, you have to use Google Chrome, literally a plugin. And I'm not exaggerating here. When I say I can go to not every website, but most websites, you go to websites, let's say it's a lawyer's office. Let's say there's 100 lawyers. You just go to www.lawyers.com as an example. And you click the button, and then, oh, there it is. There's a whole list of all the lawyers that work there, their email address, whatever. You click the button, and it's in an Excel file. And you upload it into your system, and you start your process.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Why did you move from that to seamless?
Seamless. Well, I got 2 reasons. Number one, I really like Brandon. I want to support him. I like his journey. I like what he's done.
Yeah. Good reason.
But also 2 is it does the same thing Scrapio does. It is a little bit more expensive, but it also is very good at getting phone numbers, mobile phones. And mobile phone numbers is very, very hard to get.
Okay.
Very hard to get.
Okay. So that's a key differentiator. And I want our listeners to know that, because they ask for these automation tools all the time of what to do, what to spend, and they get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah. One of the problems is like even if you read Tony Hughes' book, right? He starts naming all these different programs, like Zoom Info. I had a meeting with them a year ago. They wanted $15,000. Well, that's for a certain customer, and they do a good job with that customer.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Right. Scrapio.io, seamless.ai. That's
more approachable. And right. I think a high performer, a high achiever, $100 a month is not that much.
Yeah.
If you're doing okay, it's not that much, right? I mean,
you get the return, right?
Yeah. And you get the return, but having that alternative is good too. Lots of great stuff here. Well, we've got like 6 minutes. I want to use this to the best of our ability. So next thing I want to is give you an opportunity. How do people reach out to you? How do they work with you? Where do we find the book? All of that info about you. So much great stuff for our listeners. So thank you. And then Susanna always has, I don't know what question she has, but she always has some last end of the show questions. So let's talk about where people can learn about you and work with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, I would like to tell you to go to adonrigg.com, but you're gonna spell my name wrong.
Yeah.
Star.
Yeah,
My mom
I
and dad
gotcha.
go ADON, right? Instead of ADIAN, or I mean,
Yeah.
no one's going to think ADON, right?
And we'll put this information too into our show notes, so we'll have the link there.
The best is leadfreak.ai.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's got all my information. And yeah, I've got the book coming out. It's coming out end of November. It has a little bit about my journey. Just like everyone else, we all have a different story. I lived in a bus, and
yeah, we didn't even get to get into all of that.
You've got an inspirational story. We were going to have to get you back.
I lived in the bus and used to get water from a kettle trough, outhouse, no running water. Then my parents got into business, and before I knew it, I had a Suzuki Samurai Jeep when I was 16. I had a Cavalier Z24 when I was 17. I had a Corvette when I was 18. And I went to welfare on when I was 19 because they went bankrupt and left the state.
Oh, gosh.
Went to welfare, knocked on the door, and they said, sorry, you have to be 19. You're only 18. Go pick cherries. And so I skated from job to job, and very quickly got an ad in the paper, ended up selling vacuums. Long story short, I was riding with a guy in the vacuums one day, and my car caught on fire because it was a piece of crap. He ended up leaving. 2 years later, I'm working for a job. A girl comes up to me and says, my boyfriend wants to talk to you. Because my name's Adon, no one else had the name. So I pick up the phone. He goes, Adon, yeah. And you sell vacuums? Yeah. And he was working for a company selling B2B. And he got me an interview. And so it was all because of my name.
The name that's
my name was Mike or Bob. She would have said, oh, this guy, Bob, he would have gone, oh, whatever, right? But because she said this guy left with the name Adon, no one else has the name.
Awesome. Well, everybody go check out leadfreak.ai. Go find Adon's book, end in November. And Susanna, do we have a final question?
We do. So we're going back to the would you rather questions because I've got a new book about them. And I've got a really cool one that got me thinking today. We'll go straight in. Would you rather? You can both answer this if you want. I'm going to answer. Would you rather be able to eat whatever you want, yet be perfectly healthy, or have to sleep only 1 hour every day and be completely rested? So eat whatever you want, be perfectly healthy, or sleep for only 1 hour every day and be completely rested.
Who wants to go first, me or Gina?
You're the VIP.
For me, that's easy. It would be the 1 hour sleep.
Yeah.
And the reason being is, anyone rich will tell you that's really, really rich. They'll all tell you the same thing, right? Is that time is the most precious resource, right? I mean, they don't want to pay you as little as possible, but they'll give time as a very precious resource, right? So another 7 hours a day on average, that's another lifetime.
Yeah. I love that answer. That's the conclusion I came to, although I am partial to a nice Domino's pizza, which I would quite like now. What about you, Gina?
It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up because I like sleep. Like there's something decadent to me about sleep. Mm-hmm. And that's the only time when I can rest and not be consumed with work.
I agree with that too.
I'm really torn on how to answer it mainly because I like the concept of like relaxing in bed.
There's something joyful, isn't there, about a lovely sleep?
There really is. And you, well, we know you now. You go for the 1 hour
I do,
sleep.
Adon. Yeah, because I struggle. I write down my 3 things to do every day. And it looks simple. And even then, I find it hard to fit the 3 things in and do them properly. So
that's why I'm not sure if you would still get them done if you had 7 more hours.
And there's a point. Procrastinator.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was a great episode with some great information, especially for automation and prospecting and thinking maybe a little bit differently out of the box. I know Susanna is probably going to hang on this, pick up the phone thing for a while. She definitely gave Adon a run for his money on this show. So Adon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you, ladies, very much. It was very enjoyable.
Awesome. And hey, Warners, our listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode brought to you, by the way, by Sales Gravy. Sponsored by Sales Gravy. We forgot to mention that at the top. So thank you to Sales Gravy for sponsoring this show. And if you want to level up your game, you got to go to salesgravy.university and sign up for an all access pass. It is like the best deal in town. You also want to check out Jeb's new book, Selling in a Crisis. It is so hot right now. The energy on it, the comments on it on social media. It is a really good book. We've both read it ahead of time before anybody else. So go check that out. Salesgravy.com, salesgravy.university. And of course, womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com. And we're out of here. Bye, Adon. Bye, Susanna.
Bye.